What it do? I'm talking about, let's chop it up.
Welcome back to the Let's Chop It Up podcast. Thank you for joining us once again. You know what I'm saying? And again, I have a mug. It's somewhere over there, but I didn't. They offered to pass it to me, but I was like, nah, because I'm waiting for my new one. Now, if y'all don't know, we're going to drop some new mugs. It's going to be a little bit different than the ones we have now, so be on the lookout. You know what I'm saying? Well, like we always do, right? Let's get right into it. It's your brother Mo with my boy Whiteout, my brother Elokes, and Adam Chaney.
Yo.
From Elijah Rising.
I told him I feel like I need a name. I feel like I need a nickname. We just go with the last name.
Chaney.
Yeah, first comment. No, let's not do that.
Comment below.
Chain dog.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
That's a bad idea.
I thought about it as soon as I said it. I was like,
don't do it.
I love y'all, but I don't trust y'all now.
Cancel.
I trust y'all. Nah, man. So if you do think of a nickname, hit us up.
Yeah, let me know.
We said AC, but AC Slater.
AC Slater. I mean, do you think of anything else when you say AC other than like the air conditioning? I don't know.
A little AC.
Well, when I think of Adam,
AC.
the first thing I think about is Adam and Eve. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. That's played out though, Mo. I gotta be honest with you.
Yeah, but
you know, people
it's
be
OG.
Like, people, you know, I meet people that are like, "Where's Eve?" I'm like,
Your wife's name ain't Eve?
No. Shout out to my wife.
Yeah, so Eve. Now, nah, if y'all don't know, this brother right here, man, a lot of y'all might not know, you know what I'm saying? But if you do know, you already know the impact that him and the organization that he's a part of have an impact on this city and what they do to help light up the darkness. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Elijah Rising. Yeah. Can you break it down for our viewers what it is Elijah Rising is? Yeah.
Elijah Rising is a Houston-based nonprofit that's fighting sex trafficking. And our mission statement is we're ending sex trafficking through prayer, awareness, intervention, and restoration. And so that kind of covers primarily what we do just like programmatically. And we can get into all of that. I mean, I'm happy to dive into each one of those specifically. So, but that's what we're doing. Yeah.
For people that don't know what exactly, how do you define sex trafficking? Because many people they probably never even heard of that term.
No, that's great. So there's a federal definition of what trafficking is. And so there's this thing called the TVPA, Trafficking Victims Protection Act, which put a federal definition on trafficking for the purpose of law enforcement. And so, without getting into all the legal language, I'm going to break it down essentially as any sex act for compensation. So it doesn't always have to be cash money. It can be, food. It can be a hotel room. It can be any sort of compensation, right? So any sex act for that compensation that results from force, fraud, or coercion. Now, note the or. Force, fraud, or coercion. It doesn't have to be all three. It just has to be one of those. So that kind of sets a high bar, but also at the same time a low bar. Because what is coercion, right? I mean, that could just be simple verbal coercion. It's and then being defrauded into it. Oftentimes, when we talk about trafficking, we think about that force element, right? But that's it doesn't have to be force.
Yeah, is that word you say coercion?
Yeah, coercion.
Is that kind of how he says kind of like a high bar and a low bar? Is that kind of how people in high positions are able to get out when they get caught? Yeah. Like they're able to wiggle that word around? Because I think in Dallas, like one of the leaders of like one of the biggest, like I think you heard about it, like the online, they were basically like using it for sex trafficking and child porn. Yeah. He got busted. And I think he got out of jail within a few days or something like that, and they dropped the case or something.
Yeah, I don't know about that specific case and all the specificity around what it was and why they got off or whatever. But coercion can really be like oftentimes a lot of people end up in trafficking because they've been groomed into it. And so another definition for trafficking, which I'm totally stealing from a researcher, they say, trafficking is the exploitation of vulnerability. People end up in trafficking because they have some vulnerability. Now, we all have vulnerabilities, right? Like every one of you has a vulnerability, but like somebody in a position of some form of power exploits some other person's vulnerability and gets them through force, fraud, or coercion, and oftentimes it is coercion, to start engaging in sex for pay, right? And so that vulnerability can be homelessness. That vulnerability can be poverty. That vulnerability can be you're an 8-year-old girl right? That vulnerability can be, fill in the blank, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then that person that yields or wields some form of power is going to exploit that vulnerability and get you to do that thing. And so that's really where that coercion comes in. Maybe it is like, hey, if you do this, I will buy you that new pair of shoes. Or if you have to do this, or I'm going to harm your family, your parents, your children, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what we mean by coercion.
Yeah.
Okay. And just to get started, man, I'm going to read a few headlines from the news. Like if you go on Google, because I was just kind of researching and well, these are the headlines. 3 hours ago, a video spreading conspiracy theories about satanic sex trafficking ring is going viral.
Yeah.
4 arrested in child sex trafficking case involving young victims in South Carolina.
Yeah.
4 men indicted in sex trafficking sting involving in Harris County girl or something 12 hours ago.
Yep.
Watch, there's a crazy one right here. Watch. National Guard chaplain and youth pastor among 18 arrested on human trafficking charges. That's 3 days ago.
Wow. Yeah.
Supreme Court says Glastonbury businessman convicted of sex trafficking. 18 arrested in Tennessee human trafficking operation. Like, it just goes on and on, right?
Yeah.
There's a crazy list. So how
And this is all very recent.
it's like within
That's
3
today's
days,
feast.
today's
Hours,
and that's like United States. How big is it in America and in Houston to be particular?
Yeah, huge. It's huge. Houston in particular, we are a major hub for trafficking.
A few years ago, it was like crowned like the biggest hub.
Yeah.
Is it still? Do we still have that same issue?
Yeah, so a lot of people talk about Houston being the number one
Yeah,
city
yeah.
in the nation for trafficking.
Crazy.
And so that is, depending on the research that you're looking at, that may or may not be provable. And it's really hard, you know what I mean? Because like we ask, well, how many people are being trafficked? How many people are in trafficking? And there's not a census, y'all.
Yeah.
Like there's no real numbers.
Because even what you read, that's just what's reported on.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
conservative. If I said if I said there's 10,000 trafficking victims, like that is like a shot in the dark.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so, the government, right, at the federal level, state level, local level, they can only report on what is either
Reported.
It's what's reported, what's achieved by sting operations or outcries. Those who are being victimized, actually, reach out for help or they exit and they self-report. But I'm telling y'all, like doing this for 10 plus years now, that number is low.
Yeah.
Okay?
Wow.
And so it is a huge problem.
Wow.
I mean, we see individuals that are experiencing trafficking on a daily basis in the city. And so back to your question, is Houston the number one city, or have we been the number one city? The truth is, yes, at some point we have been. That title is kind of batted back and forth between us and LA, Atlanta, Chicago sometimes.
The whole I-10 route.
corridor. Yeah, that's
Is it
right.
because it's close to Mexico? Because we're close to Mexico, or no?
Yeah, I mean, our proximity to the southern border does result in more trafficking in a very specific type of trafficking, and a very specific population that is trafficked, but that doesn't make us more susceptible to trafficking in general. There's just as much sex trafficking occurring in New York City as there is, down here close to the border. It's just that we have a lot more Latina girls and boys, right? Boys are trafficked too. So what I like to say is trafficking most often looks like the community that it is in, right? So if you're from Houston, think about how diverse is Houston.
Yeah.
That's one of the most diverse cities on the planet.
Yes.
So people ask, well, is it all just, like Mexican girls that are trafficked here?
Yeah.
No. It's not. It's just
anyone and everyone.
is just as diverse. I mean, it is. Trafficking does not respect your demographic, your socioeconomic status, your gender, your age. None of that. Everybody is caught up in it. And buyers look the same too, unfortunately. So Houston ends up being one of these major hubs, not because of our proximity to the border. That is one element that is absolutely true and does contribute. But we're huge. So we have population density. Exactly. We're diverse. So like anybody can be in. We all look different at this table, right? I mean, so like you can hide people. So population density, population diversity, and then tons of, somebody mentioned the I-10 corridor. I think
Are girls transported.
Yeah. That's what I was about to say. So wherever you find easily accessible transportation routes, so think 45, I-45, think I-10. So we're talking north, south, east, west, and the ship channel that I think is like right there. I don't know where I am right now. We have one of the nation's largest ship channels, right? Yeah. And huge international airport, right? Yeah, wow. So all of these factors kind of come together to create a perfect storm.
I'm sorry, there's issues in the ship channels?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Anywhere.
Wow.
So it is a reason why it's called
there's people.
Traffic.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Right.
Where people and things are moving. Traffic.
Yeah.
Trafficking.
So there's this movie on Prime has a lot of videos about sex trafficking, which I think is dope because, it kind of informs you.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen this movie called Apartment 407.
I have not. No,
okay, it's a true story. But what tripped me out the most about it was I always had that mindset, like trafficking is like they steal a girl from India, they bring her here. They steal a girl from Honduras, they bring her. Yeah. And in this movie, it's a true story. This woman, she's kind of groomed at a coffee shop. She's at a coffee shop just drinking her coffee. Some guy that looks like a businessman, real, nice looking guy. He's there like, just reading the newspaper. Yeah. And then he kind of talks to her. He's like, hey, man, he's like, I never do this, but you'd be very good for photography. He's like, I'm actually, he's like, I used to be real connected in the business. He's like, just think about it. I know that you'll do great. You'll make good money. He gave her a card. She ended up calling it. She went for a photo shoot. And it's in the downtown. It doesn't say what city it is, but it's in downtown of that city in a big sky-rise building. Yep. Wherever they do the photo shoot, it has like an exit that nobody could see. Yep. And they take her through the back. Once she gets there, they lock the doors and they just basically assault her. And they take her through the back, and they take her upstairs to like a hidden room. Yeah. It is like in the downtown area. It could be Houston. It could be New York. You know. It doesn't say.
Did you say this was a true story?
Yeah, it's a true story. And the girl, she ends up escaping because. Long story short, it's crazy what happens. Like if you watch it, it's intense. Like they abuse her so much, and people come with all these like crazy fetishes that you're like, where do these men come from? But what happened was that the trafficker, he accidentally left some scissors in there. I forgot how he left some scissors. She got some scissors from somebody.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, and long story short, that's how she escapes. Yeah, spoiler alert. But
he's telling us the whole movie. I was just.
But to me, what tripped me out was like I never thought it would happen like that in a city.
Yeah. So that does happen, but it's often far more subtle than even that. The vast majority of individuals that we work with, it is that meeting, calling that card. Maybe they do go for that first photo shoot, and it's legit.
Yeah.
And then they come back for the second photo shoot.
Wow.
Or the third one and the fourth one. And then at that point, they're like, man, you're really good at this. Do you want to make a career out of this? Maybe let's move to LA and let's do this. So then they do that. Wow. And then they do a few more photo shoots out there. But, now they need to have some money because they've been removed from their support network, from their family, from their friends. And so they gotta make a cell phone bill, right? Well, that's all right, man. We'll provide that cell phone for you. Right. Or okay, you need a place to stay. Well, that's cool. We got an apartment right here. So you just stay in this apartment. No big deal. We got it covered, blah, blah, blah. And then suddenly you become dependent. You become dependent on these individuals. And so that's when they capitalize, right? So it's about isolation and about dependence. And then maybe narcotics are introduced at that point. And so now you have like a chemical dependence.
Wow.
Or even often what happens is it's a more romantic grooming, right? Yeah. Like you're beautiful. Yeah. You want to go out for coffee next week. And then you become boyfriend, girlfriend, and then it's the same situation, right? You begin to isolate from the support network, and then you're like, hey, look, we're on hard times, and I'm paying a lot of money for you to eat and to stay in this apartment and to have this cell phone or whatever. You're gonna need to contribute, and you're just not bringing in enough money. But I got these boys, down here, a couple blocks away, and you just need to help us out.
So a major thing is removing them from that support network.
That's a big deal. That's a big deal. Yeah. Because it's about vulnerability, right? Yeah. Right. And so you're less vulnerable when you're in a community of people who are looking out for you and who are providing for you and who are safe. And so as long as you can get rid of those safeties, right, and create more vulnerabilities, it's easier to exploit.
The less people you have around you to point out the problems, the less you see them yourself.
Yeah, and this is exploding online too, right? And so like social media. In fact, one big report has come out recently, without getting into the weeds of all the different stuff, but Facebook Marketplace has become one of the largest venues for trafficking online.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and so
you know, Adam, I've been getting a lot of I'm sure men, we get a lot of Facebook friend requests from people
all day, bro.
and I always delete those.
Yeah, sure.
And I always think like, man, I wonder if this person is being exploited.
Yeah, could be. Very well could be. Yeah.
Like what kind of messages? Like, cause I get some,
I'm
but
sorry,
I get
not
some
messages,
for like day trading.
not messages,
and-
Just like
friend requests.
follows,
Oh,
requests.
Friend requests,
Oh, okay,
yeah.
okay.
I get the messages too, though. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Hey, hit me up, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, I mean, you know, that could be
This
anything.
is my new WhatsApp.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Send me money or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, that could be anything. It could be a scam, but individuals are definitely being exploited that way.
Yeah, 'cause
Online,
I heard that
online.
like Pornhub and OnlyFans, they're profiting off of child porn and
Yeah,
sex trafficking.
absolutely.
How does that work though? Like,
Yeah. So, so there's a big, huge case being brought against Pornhub right now. There's an organization, another nonprofit out of California called Exodus Cry, and so they're
Exodus
really
Cry.
leading the charge. And they have a website you can go to. It's called Trafficking Hub. You can Google it. You can sign their petition. You can find out more about their work. Their whole mission is to tear Pornhub down. And so they have all of these victims who have come forward and told their stories about just, you know, basically their rape being filmed. And then those
Wow.
that is the porn that's on Pornhub,
Wow.
right? And so oftentimes those who are being
Don't watch
trafficked.
porn.
Yeah, don't watch porn. Look, that's a great PSA. Hey,
Yeah.
look, man. I understand the desire to watch porn. I get it. But here's the deal. You are literally financially fueling sex trafficking. Like, I know that you think that the people in that video are having a good time and they're wanting it and it's consensual and it's just two consensual adults having sex and enjoying it and they just happen to be in front of a camera. That might be 1% of the videos that are out there.
1%?
Maybe.
Wow.
Maybe. The vast majority of them the vast majority of individuals that are in those films are there doing a sex act for compensation as a result of force, fraud, or coercion. And what did I tell y'all at the beginning
Yeah.
of this episode?
Wow.
So I get it. I get the desire to watch
Yeah.
porn. I'm just telling you, if you're doing it, you're fueling sex trafficking.
And it's a sin.
And it's a sin.
Yeah. Wow.
Nah, man, it's crazy to think that it's like whether you realize it or not, if you watching it, you contributing in some type of way to sex trafficking, and you're playing a role in it.
You're fueling the industry. You're literally fueling the industry.
So talk to us about so it's coerced. So
Yeah, fraud or
and
force.
Force.
Right?
So once a person has fallen to one or some of those, what are some of the things that these women, children experience?
Yeah, I mean, brutalization, abuse.
Like, how does it start?
Yeah. Well, you know, I think another important thing to note here is that, like, every human being is unique, and every human being has their own story and their own journey. And so there is no, like, type
Yes.
of trafficking victim, right? So, like,
Everyone's different.
yeah, and everybody's story is different. I mean, there are similarities for
Yeah.
sure. I mean, that's what we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
But you know, each story is normally very unique. I mean, there are survivors who have personal relationships with who, like, their trafficking started when they were 3 years old at home, and their trafficker was their parent, right?
Wow.
Now that's very different from the 16-year-old girl at Katy High School who goes to the mall and starts getting groomed by a trafficker in the mall,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Or on Instagram, right? And that's very different from the 21-year-old woman who is down on her luck and needs to put food on the table for her kid and ends up on the street doing survival, prostitution, and ends up with a pimp. And now she's in trafficking. And then that's very different from, I could go on and on and
Yeah,
on and on,
yeah.
right? There isn't just one way
Yeah.
in, right? And there isn't just one type of story. People end up in this situation in just a myriad of ways.
Because one thing I wanted to ask was age groups, you know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
apparently from what you just said, it could be as young as
Like parents.
babies to...
Yeah, it really there is. It's primarily children. So the average age of entry into trafficking, according to federal studies, is about 13 years old. Okay, so you kind of see women age out of the industry at around 30s, 40s.
Is that like America only, or is that worldwide?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm not a real expert on global trafficking. I would defer to larger global partners like IJM or A21 or Exodus Cry. From Melissa Farley. If anybody's watching, you like really want to dig into the research here.
Yes.
Melissa Farley, prostitutionfacts.com or .org, something like that. Put it in the show notes. You can go dig into the more global stuff. My expertise is really primarily America, United States, and so the age group is typically rather young, teenage to 20s.
So, I guess the question would be, why isn't there programs in schools helping these young kids say, hey, this is really out there and you should be careful?
Yeah, that's a great question. Mo, it's because it's taken a long time to educate people in positions of power that their children are vulnerable. Oftentimes we can live in bubbles. Yeah. And we think that we are not susceptible to these things because, we go to church. And you guys know church ain't safe either.
Right.
But we go to church, we go to school, we have these, nice tight knit communities, and trafficking doesn't happen here, right? Exploitation doesn't happen here. We're good. Yeah. But that is a lie. It is an absolute blatant lie. And so, but what that does is institutionally in your schools and your churches and your businesses and these places of power, you just don't think it's a problem. So you don't address a problem, right? I mean, if you don't know that there's a problem there, why would you address it? Yeah. But I will say here in Houston, we've done a lot of great work, not just Elijah Rising, but multiple agencies that have sprung up in the past decade. And now there are tons of programs happening, at least in this region of the United States.
Do you think it should be parents speaking to their kids about it first?
Oh, it has to be. It has to be. I mean, I think parents should be the ones teaching their kids about sex anyways, right? I mean, I got kids I have 2 children under the age of 10, both of them. And I'm the one I'm going to have that talk with them. Yeah. I mean, my wife and myself, right? And so absolutely, parents have got to be informed on the issue because I'm telling you, traffickers are intentionally, systematically targeting your children.
Yeah, online and everything.
Primarily online. Yeah.
And it's crazy. My bad. It's crazy because thinking about it is like when I was young, in elementary, I remember for some reason the clinic had the conversation with me about sex education. And I guess they grouped out certain people and they wanted to talk to them about it. Yeah. I remember when I got home and I told my folks about it, my dad got mad at me and mad at the school. And I don't know if that's just a culture thing, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. But it's crazy that sometimes parents don't even want to have that conversation.
Well, look, that's the deal. Look, I mean, if you're a parent and you don't feel comfortable having that conversation, that's cool. No shame, right? No shame, no shade. Yeah. There are plenty of resources out there for you. We can get you help, but if you're still not comfortable, I mean, the schools need to be doing it too. Yeah. Our churches have got to be talking about it. Our pastors have got to be talking about it. Our youth pastors have got to be talking about it. It's got to be happening in the places where children are. If you're educating children in anything, I mean, you've got to be protecting them and you've got to be teaching them about this. Yeah. But those places have to be safe too,
Yeah, and that's what I was going to ask you. Is sex trafficking the church's problem? Because
that is a great question.
We just read the headlines that said a pastor was involved in the sex thing. Yeah. You're just talking about, even pastors fall into it. Porn fuels the industry. And there's so many reports about, Christian leaders are in pornography. We just talked about Ravi Zacharias.
Ravi Zacharias is a great example, bro.
A whole bunch of apartments he was renting out from masseuses and stuff.
Oh, he had his own illicit massage businesses and had trafficked women on staff. He had trafficked women on the payroll. You know what I'm saying? And so phrase your question again. It was so well worded.
Is sex trafficking the church's problem?
Yes.
Do we need to be talking about it more? Yes. Do we need to be teaching about it more? Do we need to be engaged more with the whole problem that's going on with this?
Yes.
Yeah.
We need to be on the front lines. Yeah. This is our responsibility. Yeah. Who are the arbiters of truth? Who are the ones who have literally week in and week out? Who has a more focused audience than pastors and pulpits? Yeah. I mean, you got people staring at you, listening to every word that you're saying. Yeah. You have got to address this issue. First of all, you got to root it out from your own from your own staff.
Yeah.
Wow. Took it another level up, man.
It's got to start there.
No, that's real.
Right? Wow. I mean, it's got to start top down. I mean, you can't Okay, I don't know how far we want to go with
Yeah,
this.
Hey,
let's,
go with
let's
it,
chop
man.
it up.
Right.
Let's chop it up.
But yes, it is the church's problem because we've
Yeah.
been the perpetrators of it for so long.
Wow.
The church is not immune from this just because we proclaim the name of Jesus.
Yeah.
Ravi Zacharias may very well have been the most effective orator, the most effective evangelizer of our generation. And the man literally had sex trafficking victims locked in rooms.
Yeah.
That right? I mean, like,
Wow.
and we wouldn't have known if he wasn't dead.
Yeah.
That's
I mean,
crazy.
you know, I assume the man is with Jesus. But look, if he can do it, your pastor can do it.
Yeah.
And I was a pastor for 8
My
years.
pastor did it. My
Your
whole
pastor,
pastor.
you know, yeah. Y'all
Somewhat.
watch all the episodes. They tell the stories.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so
Yeah.
like, and so the reason why it is our problem, the reason why it is the church's problem is because I believe the church is held to a much higher standard of responsibility. And so if it's in me, if I'm doing it, if I'm perpetrating it, if I'm committing it, I'm not gonna make a difference in the world. I'm just gonna continue to fuel it. Whether you know, spiritually, I'm fueling it spiritually, I'm fueling it just culturally. And so it's got to be addressed first and foremost in the pastor, in the pastoral staff. And then yes, it has to be talked about. Pastors have got to we've got to get brave enough to say the word sex.
Yeah, I can't remember the last time I heard a message about sex trafficking, other than like IHOP, Exodus Cry.
Yeah. I'll say,
kind
you
of
know, for
ministries.
Elijah Rising has great church partners. I mean, there are churches that are talking about it.
Yeah,
I think it's becoming more mainstream. I mean, you guys are having a podcast on it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's becoming more mainstream. People are finding out about it more. It is in the news a lot more. I mean, you read the
Yeah.
feed right there,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I think with greater awareness comes greater demand, and that's what I like to tell people too. How do we end this? It's going to take a grassroots movement of citizens saying, no,
Yeah.
we will not allow this to happen. And
Amen.
we're going to hold everybody in power, accountable to this. And so I think as that expands, we will see more and more churches go, oh, right, perhaps we should address this
There might be an
major
issue.
issue, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, look, man, like if we say that we are the hands and feet and the body of the one person who embodies justice, the man Jesus,
Yes.
Yeah.
of course it's our problem then.
Come on.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But also, and let's chop it up. Here's the other problem, though. The church has got to address the vulnerabilities
Yeah.
that lead to trafficking. Because I'm telling y'all, it's not that sex trafficking happens in a vacuum. It is a result of poverty. I like to say that sex trafficking is a social justice issue because it is many social justice issues. It is poverty, it is immigration, it is racism, it is homelessness, it is hunger, it is all of these things wrapped up into one. And all of these are contributing factors that lead these individuals to exploitation. And so we have to address all of these things. And that might feel like a really big problem. Like, well, we can't do all of this where we can't address all these things. But yes, we can. Who else is supposed to do it? Do we want the government to do it?
Yeah.
Now, look, I think the government should be addressing it too. And I'm going to hold them to account as well.
Yeah.
But they're probably going to screw it up.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah.
Right? So who's responsible?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's the people who say that they love Jesus first
Come on.
and foremost. First and foremost, it is our problem.
Yes,
Stand
and it
up
should
for the
stir
widow,
something
for
up.
the orphans.
Yeah, it should stir something
Yeah.
up when we hear these kind of truths, stuff that's happening. It should
The
get us
foster
angry.
care system, the foster care
Yeah.
system. The biggest feeder into trafficking is the foster care system.
Wow.
Okay. Now the government, they need to do something about that. We need better funding. We need better systems. We need better organization. All these things. But again, where is the church?
Yeah.
Where is the church? The church needs to be leading the charge.
Yeah.
Right? We need to be adopting children.
Yes.
We need to be taking care of the foster care system.
And
I'm
I could
adopt
see
2
how
kids now.
I could see how the
That's
foster
what I'm talking about.
Nah,
Y'all heard him say it.
and I could see how it might be easier for people to fall into sex trafficking because they're already removed
Exactly.
from their support network.
Well,
Or they don't have one.
And at the age
Yeah.
of 17, you're kicked out of the system, and you have literally no support. You have literally nothing to go to. And if you haven't been adopted,
They set you up for failure.
yeah, I mean,
Wow.
I'm telling you, and I know this from people who work in the foster care industry. And I operate a podcast too, and we did an episode on foster care and trafficking in the intersection.
Y'all go check that out.
What's the name of it?
Awesome.
The Elijah Rising podcast.
Go subscribe, please.
And so, like, subscribe, share. And so, there are stories here in Houston, Texas, from reputable people who do this work in the foster care industry that say that when these children age out of the system, literally, they open up the door, they walk out of the agency building, and the traffickers are on the street waiting for them.
Man.
Dang.
This is the reality that we
This
live
is
in.
in Houston.
Yeah, it's
I
everywhere.
I saw a movie like that where basically the lady basically called the people, "Hey, look, she's about to age out. Y'all come pick her up."
It happens.
The
So the
foster
lady,
care?
the lady was involved
Yeah.
in it.
It happens.
Wow.
I'm not saying that movie was based on a true story,
Right.
but apparently
It happens.
There's events that do happen like that.
It happens.
And I'm sure that the pimps or those people who are
Yeah.
doing that coercion, that force, that
Yeah.
fraud, I'm sure that they probably, hey, you know what? Let me link up with this person.
Oh,
You know what I'm saying?
it
In the
is-
foster care system.
Look,
Yeah.
man, pimps are businessmen.
Yeah.
Okay, traffickers are businessmen. This is an economy.
Yeah.
Sex trafficking is the second largest criminal enterprise in the world. It is $100 billion a year industry.
Man.
Yeah.
It is a business,
Yes.
yo. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
So it is strategic, right? This is a product that has a high demand, right?
That's crazy.
And so I'm telling you, traffickers think about these human beings as products,
Yeah.
right? And so how do you get your product to market, and how do you get more product in line to get it to market? Like that's the way you got to think. You want to think like a trafficker, you think like a business person.
Yeah, like on that movie Nefarious. If y'all never seen it, go check out Nefarious. There's actually a guy who used to be a trafficker, but God saved him. He turned around and he talks about how he would look at a kilo of cocaine
Yeah, I was gonna ask you to
and
say.
said, I could sell that one time, or I could get a woman
So they're 10
and I
times
could sell
a
her
day.
10 times a day for the next 10 years.
Yep.
He's like, which one you think I'm gonna choose? He's like, I don't
Exactly.
care about her emotions. He's like, all I care about is money and how I'm gonna get it.
Exactly.
That's crazy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the deal.
That's evil.
You know,
That's evil.
Yeah.
one thing I wanted to bring up, right, because we're speaking about churches, and I'll probably edit this out, but the reason I say
Drop
this
it like
is
it's hot.
no, because Hillsong, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I forgot the leader's name, but his father was involved with
Oh, Brian Houston.
Brian Houston.
His-
Brian Houston,
his-
the father. Yeah.
his father.
He was the founder, right?
Yeah.
Brian Houston was the founder of it, but his father was already in ministry,
Oh, that's
and his
true.
father
Yes.
yes. sexually assaulted a child. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And they kind of all came together and hit it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And
Oh,
the sad thing is, and I wanted to kind of ask is like, do you hear about that, especially in churches?
brother, sexual assault is rampant in the church.
Dang.
It's not a denomination issue. It's everywhere. And it's one of the reasons why it is rampant is because it is hidden. It is covered up. There are people in those churches. I mean, you guys have talked about it on
Yes,
this podcast.
yes.
Like, it is a cult mentality that you literally cover the leader, because if you don't, then somehow the gospel is going to suffer. I don't know,
Yes.
It's
Yes,
wild.
yes,
It
yes.
is wild.
We fell victim to that.
Yeah, it's easy to fall victim. You guys aren't crazy. It's
Yeah.
like it's easy to
We're
fall
normal
victim
people.
to it. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And so it's rampant. And so that happens all the time, again and again and again. And I mean, yeah.
So people need to speak up in the church, man. Right? Because I was reading this
Yeah.
thing online that you get like this some type of syndrome where you feel compassion
Yeah.
for the evildoer.
Yeah.
And then you
Wow.
feel like you're
Yeah.
helping them out, but they're smart enough to put you in that position.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So the church is like the breeding ground for that, because you have people that are vulnerable. You have people that are trying to look up to somebody, like a leader or
Yeah.
whatever, trying to follow God, and you think you're doing it for God. And that's like the perfect breeding ground for people who have that evil intention and take
Yep.
advantage of that.
Yeah.
But whenever stuff like that happens in the church, as brothers, man, we got to speak up. If you know
Exactly.
somebody that's going through it,
If
or
you see
if you
something,
see red flags,
Exactly. If you see something, you have to say something, and you can't be afraid, which I know that is easier said than done,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
there are a lot of churches out there that are such a tight-knit community
Yeah.
Yeah.
that it's almost impossible. And think about it, man. Like, if you start calling out the pastor, then you're the one who's going to get ostracized.
Yeah.
You're the one who's going to get excommunicated. You're going to lose friends. You're going to lose
Yes.
family. You're going to lose
Yes.
place. You're going to lose all of these things. And like, maybe, and then you like start to add the theological elements of it, and you start to think, well, maybe like God's okay with this, or like maybe if I call him out, like I'm out of line. Maybe
Yeah.
I'm in
Yeah.
sin if I call this person
Yeah.
who's been anointed by
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
Yada 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 yada. But look. Here's the truth. If a human being is being harmed, God ain't down with it.
yeah, come on.
It's not okay.
Yeah.
Like, I think Jesus is real clear about that. Like, I think the scriptures are real clear about it. Like if there is violence, if there's exploitation, even if it's just verbal and mental, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not
not okay.
okay.
Yeah,
It's not okay.
That's key.
It's key.
Yeah.
Because it's a slippery slope, man. if it's okay to just, maybe touch here, look there, say this here. I mean, I don't know how Ravi Zacharias ended up owning brothels.
Yeah.
I'm sure he didn't just buy a brothel one day. I'm sure there was a progression that happened over
people
time.
that saw it didn't say nothing at the beginning.
Yeah, that's one of the big things.
Exactly.
There's also another scandal that kind of happened. Like, like my family didn't grow up Christian, so I always try to get them. But they always have that bad view of the church. And we're at my sister's house, and on the news, boom, the church, Iglesia del Mundo, or Luz del Mundo, Light of the World in Spanish.
Yeah.
They're talking about
that's
the
on
pastor.
59. Well, they have
It's
two
a
locations.
big
They have one on
globe.
59.
Yeah.
And then they have one
used
like
to.
in
They just sold
Southwest.
that property.
Really?
They're drive down 59.
Yeah.
They're literally
It's like by
dismantling it
West
right
Little
now.
York, I think.
It is.
But that church, man,
They're
the
dismantling
leader.
it?
Yeah, they're taking it
Yeah,
down.
they should, bro, because they had
Yeah.
rooms like underground, and they had
What?
leaders that would pick the girls out for the leader.
Yep.
Wow.
Like they would groom them for him.
Yeah.
And you're thinking like, bro, this is supposed to be a church. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And
Was
crazy.
this a Christian church?
Yeah, it's supposed to be, right? I don't know.
It is weird.
It was like a
man.
weird,
It is
like-
weird. It's a cult. It was a cult.
Yeah, it was a cult.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
the
Go
main,
watch the code episode.
the main dude was supposed to be like
David
the
was
second
there?
coming of Jesus or whatever. What would you say?
I said David was there.
Shout out David Davila.
Yeah.
So
Put you on blast, bro.
it's. I mean, that's the deal, though, man. Like you end up in these, close knit communities who'll just do anything for each other.
Yeah.
And that's where it happens.
We were there, man.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, like we were young and we were gullible and we were easy to groom.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, that's the other thing.
And before we knew it, we were way above our heads with the
Yeah.
whole situation.
And how many people in that church were under the age of 25?
Like
95%.
Literally everybody,
That was a
right?
young church, yeah.
You're like
I was 23 when
Your
I was there.
prefrontal cortexes weren't even fully developed yet.
Right.
So of course you'll fall for most
Yeah.
of
Go
it.
against scientific. Yeah, it's crazy.
Especially when you're saying like, oh, this is God. That's the Holy
Yes.
Spirit.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm anointed by God.
Yeah.
Right?
And it comes-
Especially when you see God moving people's lives.
Yeah.
Then that's where you get confused.
Oh, that's the other
You're
deal,
like,
right?
what?
Yeah.
That's when you
how
get
can I
confused.
stop this? God's
Yeah.
moving.
Yeah.
Why would
right?
God move if this wasn't God?
People are getting saved. People are getting healed. People are, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then there's rampant sexual exploitation
And it-
happening.
It comes back down to what you said. It's like, it needs to start at the head first and
It
work
has
its way
to.
down
It has to.
before we could really be effective.
Yeah, exactly.
And how do we do that? Do we like start educating pastors? Start having conferences for pastors? What's the key?
Let's Chop It Up is doing it right now.
Okay.
You are brave enough to have this conversation. You're brave enough to bring somebody on here to just speak openly about it, right? The more we talk about it, I firmly believe that the way we end this is a grassroots movement of concerned citizens who are unwilling to be silent.
Amen.
That is how we do it. You can be a Christian, not a Christian. I do not care. What I care about is that you do not want to see vulnerable people exploited in your community. You don't want to see them sexually exploited in your community. And so you say it. If you see the red flags, you say it. If you see it in your church, you say it. You call it out.
There's some people who don't wanna see it.
Yeah. Well,
They
that's
want to
true.
turn a blind eye to it because it's
It's easier to do because there's work that goes into it.
That's true.
Sometimes people don't want to. It's so cruel that they kind of don't want to experience those emotions.
Oh, it hurts.
and they turn a blind eye. What do you say to those types of people?
Yeah, I mean, that's tricky because like I see a therapist every week because I confront some of the most heinous, worst, darkest, most evil things you could possibly think of on a daily, weekly basis, right? Wow. So like I get that. you know, not everybody can handle the stories and I should say the realities. Not everybody can handle the realities. But here's the deal, man. It's like I bet Jesus didn't want to have nails driven through his arms and legs.
Man.
You know, but like there was a greater purpose.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
He was dying to free the oppressed.
Mm-hmm.
And at a certain point, we really have to weigh our own comfort versus being a good neighbor.
Yeah.
And for me, like that score is already settled. Like I got, like, my faith is on a journey, but one thing that remains solid is love God and love neighbor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my neighbors are being sex trafficked.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Your neighbors are being sex trafficked. It's in your neighborhood.
Yeah.
I guarantee it. And so I get the needing the boundaries. I get the needing to turn a blind eye because it is hard. It is harsh. It will make you angry.
Yeah.
It will make you sad. It will make you anxious, depressed, all those things. Yes. But you know what? There are people who are being raped 7 times a day.
And that's their present reality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a little bit of depression,
Yeah.
because I encountered a really hard situation, I will go get you a therapist. But save that person. You know what I'm saying? Like, be a good neighbor first and foremost, always. That's for me. That's for me.
Yeah.
I get it's complex. It's not an easy answer.
Yeah, because faith without works is dead, basically.
Yeah,
you
man.
know what I'm saying. So how can you know that and basically be silent, choose to be silent to it?
And the scripture
there's a lot
says,
that we have to do.
To who knows right and still doesn't do it is a sin.
Yeah.
So it's like knowing these things and knowing what God has called us to, and for us to continue to turn a blind eye or not want to, for lack of better words, experience these emotions.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna ignore it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a sin.
Yeah.
I got a story that's gonna lead to a question.
Sure.
Right. So one day I'm at my apartment. This is when I used to live kind of close to the Southwest, and I'm going in. They got the gate code and everything, the gate card. So I'm pulling up, and there's this Asian lady kind of like walking fast, right? And I'm just like, whatever. So I'm trying to go to inside, and she just pulls up right next to my window, hitting on my window and everything. She's all like, "Can you help me? Can you help me? Come." She's like all frantic, right? And I'm just tripping out. I'm like, "Chill, bro. Like, what's wrong? And she's like, "Can you help me? Can you help me?" And then she goes to she's like, "Can I get in your car?" She goes to the other side.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, sure. I wasn't thinking about, someone trying to set me up or anything. I was just, what the heck's wrong with this lady? And then she's all like, "Can you help me? Can you help me? Can you help me?" I'm like, "Yeah, what's up, man?" I was like, "What's wrong?" I'm like, "You okay?" She's all like, "I was supposed to move in here today with, I don't know, she was I don't know if she was racist or if she had been hurt by somebody that was African-American.
Yeah.
But she's like, "I was supposed to move in here today with a roommate. I was going to pay them cash." She's like, "But I don't, but they're African-American." She's like, "I don't trust them."
Oh, wow.
And I'm just like, "The heck, you tripping? Like, you tripping hard." I was like, wow. I was like, start telling her kind of about the gospel.
How old is this lady?
She's probably like, I would say 35,
Yeah,
36,
yeah.
33, 34. Maybe she looked older than she was. She looked like a lady that you would see at a sex parlor.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
at the sex boss.
Yeah.
And so I let her in my car and everything. And then I'm like, "Man, I don't know what to do." And she's all like, "Can you help me? Can you help me?" And I'm all like, she's like, "I need somewhere to live. I can't be out here."
Wow.
And then I'm just like, and then I'm thinking like sex trafficking. So I'm thinking like, I was like, let me call this hotline. So I called one of the sex trafficking hotlines.
Yeah.
She didn't want to talk to them. She's like, "No, I don't want to talk to them." She's like, "Just take me to a hotel. Take me to a hotel."
Yeah.
She's like, "I got money." I'm like, "Okay, cool, whatever." I take her to the hotel, but then she's all like, "I need your ID."
Whoa.
I don't have no, She's like, "I don't have no ID." And then I was like, "You don't have no ID?"
Yeah.
And then she's all like, "Yeah, I don't have no ID." I'm like, "Do you have a passport?" I'm like, "Where you from?"
Man.
And she's like, "I just can't talk about all that." She's like, "I just don't have no
Sketchy.
ID." Yeah, real sketchy. And then I'm just like, I'm on the phone with my wife. My wife's like, "Why you got an Asian woman in your car driving around?" And I'm just like, "Babe, I just got to help this lady. Like, this is kind of trippy."
Yeah.
And long story short, she didn't want to talk to nobody on the sex trafficking hotline. I gave them all her details. I told them what hotel I dropped her off at.
Yeah.
And I went in to make sure because she needed my ID and my credit card
to get the room.
You know what I'm saying?
To get the room.
Yeah.
Wow.
And for my wife, it was kind of like, but it was like,
Yeah.
well, let's help her. I was like, I'll
Yeah.
keep an eye on her. So basically, I check her in. She gets a room and everything. I tell her, "Hey, if you need anything, call me. Give her my number."
Yeah.
I pray for her. She's all like, "I don't believe in God.
Yeah.
God is cruel. If there is a God, he's cruel." She was like really mad and really panicky.
Yeah.
So then I leave and I call back to that sex trafficking hotline and I'm like, "I was just talking to y'all, this lady." Basically, and I told them she's at this hotel and this room number. And basically the response was, "If she don't want help, we can't do nothing."
That's right.
Yeah, wow.
And the whole time I was stuck in my mind, like, this has to be a sex trafficking victim that just got out the game. Maybe she got too old or they just let her go. I don't know what happened or she ran away.
Yeah.
But all she had was like a little bag. No, she said she had no ID, no passport. All she had was a little bit of cash.
Yeah.
And it's just like, how is that happening in our city? How are there sex parlors and massage spas open in a place like America?
Well, let me respond to your story first, and then if I
familiar,
forget, bring that question back around to me if I forget. But she just listening to your story, she exhibits all the red flags.
Yeah.
She exhibits all the signs. A lack of ID is a big deal, right? Not wanting to talk, all those things, a big deal.
I'm sorry, Adam. A lack of ID. Why is that a flag?
Yeah, well, I mean, because again, remember what I told you, like the isolation and the dependence upon the trafficker, right? And so you just keep taking away all these
you
things.
can't even get a hotel room without a ID.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because if she's going to work in hotel rooms, he is going to get that hotel room, right? Or oftentimes too, it's an identity theft situation. Like the trafficker actually steal the identity. So probably what happened, and again, I don't know that situation in particular, but probably what happened was she probably was out on a call, and she probably experienced either rape, because prostituted women are raped. Okay. She probably experienced a rape, or a beating, or some sort of theft. People steal, buyers will steal all their stuff, beat them and steal everything, right? It happens all the time. So she had probably gotten to her breaking point and realized, I got to get somewhere safe. It happens all the time. Yeah. And you did the right thing by calling the hotline. Great job. And calling your wife. Smart man.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
You know what I'm talking about?
Hey, don't go out there trying to do this stuff and you're married and you're not doing things right.
Again, shout out to my wife. She's been putting up with this kind of crap for a decade now.
There we go.
And then
Real one.
you made the choice to help her, to get her to that hotel room, to put her up in that hotel room. Great job. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily recommend that for everybody, because you don't, but you did the right thing. But the truth is, these individuals, if we can't traffic our way out of traffic, so like it's not like we can just bust up in that hotel room and be like, all right, you're getting out of the life right now. Let's go to
Come
a
on, you just
restorative
got
care
saved.
program. Right, exactly. That's just doing the same thing that the trafficker did it, but we're slapping like freedom on it or something like that, right? Okay. And so like it is their choice, right? I mean, our teams see women literally every single week. And we have these conversations with them every single week. And they'll be like, I'm not ready to leave yet. Cool. All right, girl. See you next week. And that's just the posture you got to take, because it's their decision. They get to decide. And if they want to stay in the game for 20 years until they get killed, that's their choice. And
you just leave the door open for them.
Exactly. It's relational. We stay in the same places that, most of the time, so they know where to find us. They know who we are. They know our names. They know our faces. They know the phone numbers to call. Right. And so when it gets so bad that they know they need to get out, they know who they can call. And that's where we want to be. Yeah. That's where we want to be. But you know what? They may never call. And that's okay too for us. That's okay too for us, because we did our part. Yeah. We were good neighbors. Yeah. We loved them. We saw them. We took care of them. You put her up in that hotel room, and she probably had the first good night's sleep in maybe months. Wow. Yeah. So good job.
Yeah. Amen.
Bless
the Lord. Yeah, I was tripping. I was like, man, I went back the next day. I was like, hey, my credit card's off the file, right?
Yeah.
She was already gone though. That's what's crazy. And it reminds me of the story. I think y'all had like a kind of like a docu movie on your website, like She Will Rise or something like that.
Yeah, we made a movie.
And there was one girl's story that she she went to a church, and long story short, the church turned her away basically because the pastor wasn't there. So the lady at the front was just like, oh, he's not here. Yeah. And then the girl was kind of tripping, like, pregnant. I'm coming for help and I'm pregnant and I'm thinking about an abortion.
Yep. And they were like, sorry, we don't really know how to serve you.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that happens a lot.
This kind of sounds familiar, and I'm not going to put no churches on blast, but whenever people come to the church looking for help, and it's kind of like, well, the pastor's the only one that can help you. I'm sorry. Can you come back next week at this time? And it's like, man, and something Train 9 said on his episode was, we're not growing people into making disciples or teaching them how to be the church. You know what I'm saying? Where it's just like we put all that responsibility, let the pastor handle that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. And so again, it kind of goes back to what I was saying. It's like you just got to be a good neighbor. You just get you have to care about the individual who's standing in front of you. You have to see their need. And, and not everybody's going to put them in their car, drive them across town, put them in a hotel room with their own credit card and ID. Yeah. I mean, that was brave. That was bold.
I would have been like, at least on my credit card too. I
ain't got no idea.
You know what I mean? But and also, one other note that just popped into my head, and so I just want to say, like, if she had looked underage, call the police. Always call the police. Always call the police if they look underage. Yeah. If it looks like a child, you must call the police. And because you just don't want that problem.
Well, what you're asking about the spa.
Oh, yeah. You had a question.
So,
bring that question.
So how does it happen? How is it happening in America?
How is it happening in America? How can it run? How does it function? Why don't we just stop it? Why don't the cops just kick the door in if you know there's sex spas?
To piggyback on that question, what's the percentage? What's the percentages of like spas that you see whenever you're traveling down the freeway? How many of those are actually?
Yeah, a lot of them.
Spas?
Yeah, so like not all massage parlors are brothels.
Because I be thinking that every time I see it, I be like, these sinners.
Yeah. And it makes you wonder too, like, how are these places in existence and like wide in the open.
Yeah. So we've got multiple episodes on our podcast answering these questions, the Elijah Rising podcast, because that is the most common question. If you know where they are, why don't you shut them down? And so again, it's just not that simple. Right? So there's 1,000 answers to this question. Like some of those massage parlors legitimately have an occupancy permit from the city of Houston to operate a spa.
Yeah.
And so if you're law enforcement, you don't just kick doors in, right?
Yeah.
Off of suspicion.
Yeah.
Well, I'm from the hood. They do. No,
okay. Depends on your demographic. The police will kick your door in. But you know, in the majority of these locations, you have to have some sort of evidence, or you have to have a warrant, right? Before you can just bust up in a massage parlor and go up in there, right? Yeah. And even if they do, in a lot of instances, you know, they've got falsified documents, falsified permits. You know, you're supposed to have a license to, you know, be a massage therapist, or, you know, reflexologist, or, you know, fill in the blank, whatever.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times those are falsified documents, and they might be hanging up on the wall, you know.
They can say, like, we got it from China, or we got it from
you know who's on the front lines who could actually solve this problem with the massage parlors is the health department, because they're the ones who actually get to go in and inspect the place without a warrant.
Yeah.
Come
If
on.
you're working for the health department, holla at me.
If you're a follower of Jesus Christ and you need to work for that department, let's do something.
Let's do something. Exactly.
Yeah.
But the problem is, even the health department with inspectors for IMBs, illicit massage businesses, for massage businesses in general, there's only like, I'm going to get this number wrong, don't quote me, but it's like 5 inspectors for the whole city.
Wow.
And I don't know, and there's like thousands of massage parlors, right?
Yeah.
And so it's a personnel issue too, even for law enforcement. Like HPD is doing such a great job. It has taken us so long to get law enforcement in the city to be on the same page, to understand the situation, to treat these women like victims, not perpetrators, to care for these women, to get them into social services rather than putting them behind bars. And the new vice commander at HPD is an amazing woman. Her name's Christine. And she literally said multiple times to me 2 weeks ago, we will not arrest our way out of this. That's exactly right. We need to protect these women. We need to care for these women. We need to get them social services. That is what we do. And then we criminalize the buyers and we criminalize the sellers.
Yeah.
But here's the deal. Like, that has taken us a decade to get to that point.
Yeah.
And law enforcement...
That's a long time.
That's a long time.
Very long.
And they got other problems.
Yeah.
I mean, there was like 18 shootings in Houston today.
Yeah.
So,
Today, wow.
So trafficking is bad. And law enforcement, it needs to do something about it. But they also got to go handle other issues too. Right? So there's just a legitimate limitation to resources to shut all these places down, to investigate all these places. Oftentimes, trafficking stings will take months because you got to build the evidence. You got to have a judge give you a warrant. You got to, you know, law enforcement has to check all the right boxes. And believe me, we want them to go through those processes.
Because if not, it starts all over again.
Exactly, brother. I'm not talking about getting rid of all the bureaucracy. I'm a proponent of more bureaucracy. I want law enforcement to keep us all safe and keep themselves safe, right? But that red tape does allow for more trafficking to thrive. And so again, let me bring it back. It is our job.
Yes.
You want to end this? It's going to take podcast hosts. It's going to take pastors. It's going to take concerned citizens using their platforms and their influence to do something about it.
Yeah, because basically people fuel the demand.
That's right.
Right.
And we're the people.
So,
Stop fueling the demand. Get off of Pornhub, right? Make a donation to Elijah Rising and go out there and say no. Train your community. Learn.
Because you guys have taken churches to like these stings.
No, brother, no.
They do van tours.
I thought I've seen something.
I was about to say, I'm like, that's all very dangerous.
No.
Everybody got their bulletproof vest on.
Let me clear that up.
Wait.
Here.
Are you sure?
We do mobilize churches on a weekly basis to go into brothers.
All the ushers going first.
Okay, not to the sting.
But we're not
operation.
stinging nobody. We're not stinging nobody. We're not stinging nobody. But what we are doing is we mobilize volunteers on a weekly basis, hundreds of volunteers across the city in all sorts of places. Often it's led by the church, but not always, into the places where people are being trafficked. And we take resources. We take that exit hotline number that you called that night. We take food. We take socks. We take soap. And we go into these places and we go into these streets and we go into these establishments and we meet these women where they are. And we're like, hey, how you doing?
We just here to love on you.
Yeah. You all right? Mm-hmm. Do you need anything right now? I see you ain't got no shoes on. You need some shoes? Are you hungry? You need a bottle of water? What you doing? What you doing out here tonight? You okay? Hey, if you ever get tired, of this game, I got a phone number you could call. I know it's hard, but but if you ever want out, you can call this number.
Yeah.
You good? You good? All right, cool. I'll see you next week.
Man,
That's
just
all
like
it is.
Yeah.
Just like that. And I mean, that's the gospel.
Yeah.
That's the kingdom. I can't force her out.
Yeah.
I don't want to force her out. But she knows that she is seen. She has been seen.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
She has been validated in her humanity. And she knows that there is another human being on the planet who cares about her current circumstance and has a way out of it if she so chooses.
Amen.
That is what I'm about.
Yeah.
And they will call eventually.
All right. So didn't y'all used to do like van tours where y'all would take
Yeah.
people? I went on one a while back, but do y'all still do them?
Yeah, look at you. The van tour has been the most powerful way to raise awareness. We started it at the very beginning of the organization back in 2012. We've taken over 11,000 people on that tour. But then in 2020, this little thing called coronavirus, came and putting 12 people in a confined space with poor ventilation for an hour was a bad idea.
Very.
And
So in this van tour, what did you guys do?
Yeah. So van tours are on pause.
Okay.
But
not completely canceled?
We are hoping to relaunch them at the end of this year.
We just need bigger vans.
Yeah.
Bus.
Everybody social
Crack all the
distance.
everybody needs
Crack
a
the
window.
windows.
So
Hey,
the metro's still running? No, I'm playing.
okay, so if you own a Metro bus, holler at me.
Yeah, come on. Partner up. If you're a Christian and you drive a metro bus,
Holla.
just disappear with it.
Hit me up. No, here's the deal. So on the van tours, basically what we do is because we send people out into the streets every week, we kind of have a database of all the places where trafficking is suspected to be occurring, right? So what we do is we basically design a route where we get to talk about the basics of trafficking. We kind of call it a sex trafficking 101 class on wheels, right?
Wow.
So we have a lot of the same conversation that we're having right here, but it's more kind of a presentation style, right? A teaching about trafficking. And then we use the locations that we drive by. We use the anecdotes from our intervention work to kind of, just illustrate the awareness that we're bringing to the issue on the tour. So we kind of combine those two things, and that's why the van is a really, really powerful tool, because it's one thing for me to just tell you, like, trafficking is this, and that. It's another thing for me to tell you that while you see the places where it's occurring. Yeah, man. And then what's crazy is a lot of times people be on the van and be like, oh my gosh, this is like my neighborhood.
Wow.
Well, when
I
I
can see my
went, it
house
was
from
down the
here.
street. It was down the street when I went.
Man.
Exactly.
On what street is this? Wallaceville?
Yeah, Wallaceville, yeah.
90 Road, yeah.
Yeah,
where
yeah,
the truckers are at. That's where they
That's
took
right.
us. And
That's right.
They had actually said that they had just busted like this cantina.
Yep.
That I think it had like 70 girls
Yeah,
or
yeah,
something
yeah.
like that, right?
Hey,
and underage
yeah.
I
women.
have to share something.
Go
Go ahead.
Yeah,
ahead.
that's what I was gonna say.
So
Yeah.
what? Check this out. And I wanted to ask you this, and since you brought up the cantinas, the sports bars.
Yeah.
McCarthy.
I didn't put it together at that time, but there was a fully developed sports bar, and then they were adding a house
Yeah, that's it.
to the back of the cantina.
Man.
And at the time I was like, oh, they're just adding to the, you know what I'm saying?
It must be
Yeah.
the
But then
business
it's
owner.
like they were having little rooms.
That's it,
Oh,
man.
no,
That's
that-
how
I
it works.
was like, but I didn't put it together until like I left.
That's how it works.
And
Now,
and this was off of what is that? 45. It's a feeder.
45 North?
No, it's a feeder. Dang it.
Well, that's when you were doing
it's a-
sales or what?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
okay.
It's a little hidden feeder. It's a 45.
Yeah.
It's a
Hardy Toll Road?
Hardy Toll Road.
Hardy Toll
Hardy
It
Road.
was it was a hidden sports cantina
Yeah.
on Hardy Toll Road.
Yeah, man,
and
they're
that's where it
everywhere
was
though.
at.
Oh,
They're
wow.
everywhere though.
Yeah.
I mean, 45 North is hot, but they're everywhere. They're really prominent in the ship channel. Now, look, just like I talked about massage parlors, like every cantina is not a
Yeah.
brothel.
Yeah.
Man, I was about to become a superhero in the city and just break into no.
But how
But a lot of them
serious
are-
is that issue with
Oh,
cantinas?
yeah, and so that's kind of what's unique about trafficking in this region of the United States is we do like the cantina situation is huge here, and that's
Yeah.
not the case in Nebraska, right?
Right, right.
I mean, they've got one or two maybe, whatever, but we have a lot here, and that is often how we teach people to identify them is like, why does that bar have like little motel
Trailers
attached
in
to
the back.
Yeah, trailers or a little extra room, or exactly like you're saying. Like, why are they building a house on the back of this thing with multiple bedrooms? Now, again, maybe you're just like super wealthy and you want to put your house as your business. I don't know. But oftentimes what's happening is it's a brothel. Wow.
I remember the one that I saw shut down was the one on McCarthy.
Yeah.
And
there's a bunch out there.
Yeah. And it's crazy because it seems to be like where there's a lot of tractor travel or moving. You know what I'm saying? Like 18-wheelers and stuff.
Yep, exactly.
And that's the issue sprouts from immigration? Would you say that? Or
yeah, I mean, it's just like any other business. It's like if you're into Mexican food because you're Mexican, you go eat at a Mexican food restaurant. Right. I mean, it's like, right. I mean, it's just like, it's like demographic thing. It's like if you want Thai food, you go to the Thai restaurant, right? And I hate to like reduce human beings to that type of thing, but
that's sometimes what it comes down to.
Again, it's a business, y'all. Like it's like supply and demand is how you create the market, right? And so like if there's a market for Latinas, you know, and you're a Spanish speaking dude who might be here, you know, maybe you're working on the ship channel, or maybe you're a truck driver, or maybe you're, you know, whatever, a day laborer or whatever. Like you want to go to a bar where, you know, there's mariachis in the corner and, you know, they're serving Bud Light at the bar, and maybe
whatever you're familiar with.
Yeah, right. It's about familiarity. It's about comfort. It's about a place where you feel safe because you know you're doing something illegal and wrong, right? And so it's less about the immigration issue. I mean, it is more prevalent here because we're closer to the border. There's no doubt about that. We have more Latina trafficked victims here because we're close to the border. That's a fact. But I mean, you're gonna go where you where you get what you want. Right? It's a vice, you know.
Yeah, like back in the day, I didn't even have no idea what sex trafficking was. Didn't care about it. This when I was worldly, you know. Yeah. My homeboy actually used to go to a cantina bar right there on Washington before it got remodeled and nice. Yeah. And one day he comes to me. He's like, "Bro, guess what? I want my cousins to this bar." He's like, "Bro, they line the women up for you.
That's how they do it.
And you could choose the one you want. You just got to pay." He's like, "You could take any one of them."
Yeah.
And then I was like, "Damn, that's
How
crazy."
old was he?
I never went. We're probably like 17. We were in high school.
Yeah,
we're
that's
like
what I heard
17,
about massage parlors.
because my homeboy used to hang out with his cousins, you know, and they would take him, and then he's all like, "Bro, you know, he did what he did," and I was like, I didn't think nothing of it though, but now looking back, I'm like, this has been going on for a while.
Oh yeah, man, forever.
For some people like us that were worldly, it was just kind of normal.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question, Adam. Has there been a rise in demand since like the 80s, 90s, like right now? Or has it always been high, but we're talking about it more now? Or what's your take on that?
Yeah, man, it's just about it being a hot topic.
Yeah.
I mean, demand has always been this way. I mean, you know, go watch, you know, if you go on Amazon Prime and find some old Western film, right? Like some John Wayne film. Right,
the parlors, the saloons.
Yeah.
What is it? It's a brothel.
Yeah, I didn't want to say the something houses.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And so it's not that it's like some, you know, exploding in popularity. You know, in fact, maybe, I mean, I don't know. I don't have statistical research on this, but like maybe it's being reduced. I don't know, but it's just it's so pervasive. And you're hearing people talk about it more, thank God. That it feels like it's more, but it's not.
How much? I just wanted to ask, because when we were talking about this, even the massage parlors, I started thinking it's like, and you mentioned Facebook, and I see it on Facebook Marketplace where it's like women selling massages or whatever, and I'm like, nah, this don't look like no regular massage.
Right.
But as far as internet, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
How much percentage-wise do you think it is?
Yeah, I don't have a specific figure for you.
I want percentages.
Yeah, give me your hard data. I mean, I can totally send you guys all sorts of research, but it's hard to put real numbers on this stuff. But a ton of it is online. Yeah. In fact, a big source of trafficking in most places is online, and so it's escort services, right? And they do what's called in-call and out-call. Yeah. So like in-call is they have a hotel room that the buyer comes to. Out-call is the buyer has a hotel room that they go to, or a house, or, you know, whatever, a car or whatever. And so on the internet facilitates all that, right? And then if you throw in pornography in that too, I mean, the internet is the biggest supplier of trafficking.
Yeah, I heard that. I think on one of your podcasts you were saying that they do like Facebook ads.
Yeah.
That they're bold to do like Craigslist ads.
Yeah.
And then I think y'all said that y'all had like y'all had like a sting, or somebody had like a sting operation, and they put ads online. and that somebody showed up within 15 minutes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because they saw the ad.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
That's how
People
much
do
in demand it is.
Oh,
in
the
every
demand
area.
is high.
Yeah.
And COVID actually really increased demand, surprisingly enough, because just the isolation of COVID and the mental health crisis that COVID created, and a lot of women who were being sold in strip clubs and in cantinas and bars, you know, because they were shut down because of COVID, right? You had to close from all the business closures. They were forced onto the street. And so we saw a huge spike in trafficking on the street, like in they call it the track or the blade. There's lots of street names. And you just saw women everywhere because, you know, they couldn't, VIP rooms were closed and, you know, all that kind of stuff. So, you know, COVID really increased it.
Pimp C, he's a rapper. He passed away.
Yeah.
He said, pimping ain't dead.
Yeah.
It just moved to the web.
Yeah.
How are traffickers and pimps using technology to traffic women?
Yeah, so I mean, it's the online forums. There are websites that facilitate. There's like Yelp type websites out there. I'm not going to give you specific URLs or anything on here. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But there are websites out there that are like review sites that you can go to. Where I mean, literally, like you know, that place that you saw on 45, right? There are websites that exist where you can go and you can type that place in and you can get like full-fledged reviews on women. And so there are other websites where the biggest one was something called Backpage, but we got Backpage shut down.
That's the one that the guy from Dallas, right? That the owner lived in Dallas, and
did he live in Dallas? I don't know.
Well, he was. I think he lived in Houston, but he was traveling at the airport, and that's where the FBI got him.
Yeah. So that was basically like a Craigslist of humans, right? And so, but Craigslist is in there. So there's all sorts of places where you can like set up dates. You can set up in calls and out calls. There are places where you can find businesses like IMBs, illicit massage businesses. You can find cantinas. You can find strip clubs. Like you can find all these places if you just it's just all out there. And then on top of all that, you know, you have to also throw in the porn industry, right? Using technology, which is proliferating at rates that are astronomical. And so then you also have to throw in on top of that social media, right? We just talked about Facebook, but also then the grooming that's taking place on social media, specifically, you know, Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, TikTok, right? These are all places that traffickers are recruiting. So it's literally everywhere on the internet.
Yeah.
That's crazy. You remember we used to do ministry with, you probably know her, I ain't gonna say her name, but it was this organization that the founder, her daughter, ended up getting like groomed, and she ended up leaving. And at the time, I didn't really understand it. I was like, "How you getting sex trafficked online, right?" Yeah. So I was like, "Nah, they're probably exaggerating a little bit."
It was a very.
You remember?
It was well, to begin with, I'll say they're upper class for the most part. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so
I'm pretty sure I know who you're talking about.
I've heard of it.
To even think it was like, oh, this happened, and then there was like a whole lie that was going along with it to going to school somewhere and so on and so on, right?
Right.
But then finally it came out that that's what was going on, and her mom was trying to tell people, my child is being sex trafficked,
right?
But the child or whoever was the one behind the Facebook stuff was trying to be like, no, I'm okay, this and that, and
like controlling everything. And
that's super common.
This is public information, right?
Yeah.
Their story.
We're not saying names, so
their story is out there.
I just kind of don't want to be confusing. About this.
Well, their story is out there, and the deal is though, like that story, that family, that's common. That's not like some one-off. Right.
Yeah.
That's not.
I would say I believe it's public because his daughter went on to
go to the White House.
Represent.
Now she leads and kind of works in sex trafficking stuff too, right? Yeah. I don't know the full details behind it, but
they do, and they do good work too, and they really raise awareness on that specific form of trafficking. And she was groomed online. I mean, and that's what it happens again.
So she's a survivor, and now she's an advocate.
Yeah, she's a survivor who's an advocate now. She's a survivor leader. She does great work. But I'll tell you, I did a presentation to a very, again, not listing any names, but a very high-end private high school here in Houston. And I was doing a presentation to a class about all this, right? And about grooming. And I kind of explained the grooming process. And I could tell that these students, they were like juniors and seniors. And I could tell, like they're like looking at each other and whispering and laughing a little bit.
Like it sounds familiar to some of them.
Well, in my head, I was like, I wonder, like they keep looking at each other, like they know.
Like when you in
You
church,
saw that.
Like when you in church and you know the pastor's, you look at your friend like he talking about you, bro.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I just thought in my head, I was like, you know what? And so I did this. I was like, hey, y'all know what I'm talking about, don't you? And they're all just kind of looking. And I was like, if you know what I'm talking about, if this has happened to you, or if you have had a friend that this has happened to, or if you've heard about it happening to somebody in the school, raise your hand. Every single hand went up.
Wow.
Dang.
That's crazy.
So this is not just in the hood.
Nah.
No, brother, it's not just in the hood.
Yeah.
No.
It's crazy because a lot of times the mind frame thinks it's like, oh, it's just poor people.
Nope.
Or people that don't have and they need.
Nope.
And it's like, but it comes down to anybody who's vulnerable.
This
Anybody
is an
who's
American issue.
It's a world issue.
Yeah.
It's a world issue. I mean, America has like everything, a very uniquely American version of it. But this is how it happens everywhere.
Yeah. That's crazy. I got a 2-part question.
Yeah, let's go.
And it's kind of flipped the subject a little bit. Number 1, so did Epstein kill himself? And number 2, because I watch a lot of documentaries and movies about sex trafficking.
I cannot confirm nor deny.
All right. So
I need percentages.
Straight up, we need percentages. Where were the guards at?
Yeah, where were they?
So did
Was that the
Epstein
2
kill
part?
himself? And is the government somehow involved in sex trafficking, and that's why they're slow to pass laws and legislation?
I'm glad he brought that up. I'm asking
because I watch a lot of movies where girls try to get away, and the sheriff, he's keeping them there.
Yeah.
The sheriff is working with the traffickers.
There has been tons and tons of very unhelpful conspiracy theories floated in recent years.
Pizzagate.
And if you listen, Pizzagate's one of them. If you listen to the Elijah Rising podcast, and depending on the episode that you're listening to, we have experts in the field from various fields that will bring this up unprompted by me, that will say to you, the conspiratorial thinking, I'm going to call it out, from QAnon primarily, is unhelpful to people who do this work. It is. Could there be some truth to some of it? Sure, maybe. But who has that proof?
Yeah.
That is not helpful.
Yeah.
And that type of trafficking, the child trafficking, sex cult stuff, that is not what we see. That is not the people we work with on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
Could children be being sold in cabinets on Wayfair?
That's what I was going to ask about.
Certainly that's a possibility.
Yeah.
Of course it's a possibility. But I have done this work for a decade. I do this work every single day, and never once have I ever encountered a person where that's how their trafficking experience went. Not one time.
Yeah.
And so it creates a lot of social media hype and buzz, and maybe the benefit is that people are talking about trafficking, but
They're getting the bad information.
I think it is being used by people in political power to fuel their own political agendas and goals, that's what politicians do.
Yeah,
Left, right, middle, everybody. It's a game, which is fine. That's how it works. But unfortunately, it really harms those who are on the front lines doing this real work.
So we got to get informed.
But Jeffrey Epstein was a sex trafficker.
Yes.
And that's not a conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
What about Cosby? No,
I don't know how that they let that brother out of jail. I do not know.
No, but
That
the
is
whole Jeffrey
ridiculous.
Epstein thing, that's crazy because he was connected with a lot of people in power.
Yes,
Yeah.
he was.
Which that's what kind of adds
Sure.
to these theories,
Power.
It does.
and it kind of makes you
It
think
does.
like, man, he was chilling with Bill Clinton, and all these people know him. And
So
how did he do what he did?
Here's the deal with that. I think it's very important to remember, and I'm not trying to get political here, y'all.
Yeah.
I'm really not. But I think it's very important to remember. Okay, here's a good example. Bill Clinton was on that island, but so was Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Okay? Donald Trump.
Donald, you let me down.
Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein were
I'll play.
neighbors.
Yeah.
Okay, and they both had the same lawyer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
So again, I'm not throwing anybody under the bus here because I don't know.
No, I believe they're all in it. Like, I don't believe like,
it's not a
I'm getting
left
my
or
news
right.
from the right, radical right, and I'm saying,
And they
you
all
know,
running
left
in the
is
same
no.
circles. Some of them knew
I
and
believe
still
like,
didn't say
yeah.
nothing, so they concealed it too.
Bro,
so you part of it.
Exactly. They're all complicit. Look,
Because this ain't the first time that Epstein got exposed.
Exactly.
It happened in like
Wow.
10 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
He got caught with the evidence.
in Miami.
And the judge let him off the hook.
Yep.
Just because probably he had money.
Man,
or
I'm gonna go watch
he
that
was
Netflix
involved.
special again.
The DA let him off the
The
hook.
DA let him off
And
the
go
hook with
Goo-
the evidence.
And go Google where that DA ended up and whose White House he ended up in.
Shout out
Say it,
Trump.
say
Google
it,
it.
say it.
Shout out
Go
Trump.
Google
Say
it.
it.
Shout out to Trump. So I
crazy.
get it, and I am appreciative, and I am thankful for the conversation that's being had. Trafficking is real.
Yeah.
Children are vulnerable.
Yeah.
You have heard me say all that
Yeah.
throughout this
Yeah.
podcast. But when it is used as a political weapon, that is harmful.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it's not useful.
It's not useful. It does not help me one bit reach one more person.
Wow.
One last question, right, that I have. Because speaking on all this conspiracy stuff, have you ever ran into situations where it's satanic?
Yeah, satanic ritual abuse definitely happens. That is a thing. It is real. I personally am aware of a couple of instances where that was part of the trafficking that was happening. So the answer is yes. Is it prevalent? From my personal experience, it's not.
Not in comparison to just the average.
Exactly.
Okay.
But is it real? Is it happening? Have I met individuals who have experienced it? Yes, for sure.
Have you heard of compassion fatigue?
Yeah. Why?
Do you have you struggled with that?
Yeah, absolutely, man. The biggest struggles, people always ask me, like, how do you do this work and what are your struggles? One, it's like a roller coaster, bro. Like sometimes I'm too close to it and I'm desensitized to it.
Like to having that empathy.
Well,
or-
I'm desensitized to the shock value.
Okay.
And
Like you've seen it all.
I've kind of heard it and seen it all.
Things don't surprise you anymore.
Nothing surprises me. I mean, there are still there. I that is a lie. There are stories that will pop up from time to time, and I'm just like broken over them.
Yeah.
Which is like the flip side of it, right? It's like a lot of times I'll hear stories. I'm like, man, golly, and it doesn't affect me at all. Like I can really handle it. Maybe
because you're getting stories and experiences after experiences,
Constant.
and it's like how are you in one piece? Like
Therapy.
You're taking so much in
therapy.
And I was thinking, I'm like, mentally, what it must feel like whenever you're trying to help somebody. They're like, nah,
Yeah,
I'd rather stay.
yeah.
Yeah, but I'm like used to that too. You know, it's like, okay, it's all good. It's all good, girl. You know what I mean? It's all good. It's the work that you do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so it's both and. There's the compassion fatigue at times, and then there's just the utter devastation and hopelessness at times. And when you do this work, you definitely fluctuate between the two.
How long do you plan to continue doing this work?
I don't know how to answer that question.
Till he dies.
Well, I don't. I mean, I left Elijah
Because it's needed.
Yeah. I mean, I helped start Elijah Rising in the very beginning in 2011, and then I worked as the mobilization director and awareness director for about 4 years, and then I left for 4 years, and I went off and did seminary at Baylor. I pastored a church for 4 years, and then realized that pastoring was not for me, and so then I came back to Houston and back to Elijah Rising. And my current role is development director, and so I do all the fundraising and oversee and help strategically with all of our communications. And so, how long will I do it? Until I don't.
Until God.
Yeah, I mean, it's just I don't. I don't know. I don't know how to answer that. I don't have any plan. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, I think one thing that from the outside looking into Elijah Rising, it started as a prayer meeting, right?
It did, yeah.
And y'all pray. Do y'all pray every morning?
Every
Or-
morning at 9 a.m.
So that kind of helps with the therapy, right? Like dealing with it day to day, and that kind of guides you.
I mean, but you get a little fatigued in
Yeah.
that too.
Yeah.
It's like okay, because we do every Monday through Friday. Our work day starts with prayer. The whole team, whole staff gathers every morning from 9 to 9:30 ish. You know, sometimes it goes a little longer. But even sometimes that can be like, okay, when's this prayer meeting going to be over? Can I just get back to work? You know what I mean? But like sometimes it's like fire, you know what I mean? And so you just kind of fluctuate between the two, and you just like consistency and organization is what keeps you sane.
So for our viewers, how can they reach out to Elijah Rising if they want to help, whether contribute, whether they want to join along in prayer, or maybe they want to be effective in their part of the city?
How do people help?
Yeah. So ElijahRising.org. That'd be the easiest way to find us. We've got a great website. Everything that we do is there. Just click around, look around. Prayer, you can join us by praying. We have a great prayer guide that's out there if your church is interested in like starting a prayer meeting for about the issue of trafficking. We got a great prayer guide full of scripture, full of targeted prayers, written prayers. You can just pray literally what's written on the page or use it as a jumping off point for your own prayer meeting. We can come speak to your church, to your podcast. We'd have a podcast, right? I think I've already mentioned that. If I haven't, like, subscribe and share. Check out the podcast. We send people out on speaking engagements all the times. The van tours will start rolling again. Be on the lookout for that next year.
In Jesus' name.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, get informed. Don't believe the QAnon
and
and stuff that ain't real. Get informed on the matter.
Exactly.
And take action.
That is such a great point because, like, if you want to learn more about trafficking, go to the sources who are the experts who are doing the work.
Yeah.
Right? Don't your Facebook feed. Look, I know it's addictive. I know Facebook is addictive and it feels real good to fight with everybody. I know Reddit is easy to scroll.
You telling me Alex Jones lied to me?
I'm telling you, man. But like, go to the experts. And it's not just Elijah Rising. You know what I mean? We have great partners. And then, you come join us on intervention. We mobilize hundreds of volunteers on a weekly basis to go to the places where individuals are experiencing commercial sexual exploitation, and you can be a part of that team. And if you feel like, oh man, that's wild, that's crazy, never. Okay, I feel you, but every single intervention launch site has a prayer team that holds back, and they pray the whole time while the other teams are going to the locations. Join a prayer team. Nice. We also have other teams that do what we call phone banking, and so they're just calling those numbers, those websites we were talking about earlier. They're just calling folks and saying, hey, how you doing? Are you okay? Do you want resources? Do you want out? So you can literally sit in some church lobby somewhere on the phone, right? So we have all that figured out. You can go to our website. You can find out. You can sign up for one of those. We got teams literally in every direction within the city, and they have different nights that they meet, and it's consistent, often run by the church. And then we do long-term restorative care. So we have a big campus.
I was going to ask about that. You have like a 80-something acres.
Yeah, we got an 80-acre campus out in rural middle of nowhere, where we do long-term restorative care for those who have exited. And so that's a great program. We don't really do a lot of volunteer work around that, except for like, gardening or like sprucing up a house or whatever. Sorry, I just punched the camera. That is not okay. Sorry about
Somebody
that.
Somebody else did that too.
And so, and you can give, right? I mean, like this work is expensive. It's really expensive. So my role now with the organization is I am the chief fundraiser and grant writer. And so give money. You're wasting money on subscriptions to all sorts of services. You're throwing money away on stuff all the time. We all do.
That Amazon Prime, you don't order nothing.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, you know what I mean? I order a lot on Amazon Prime.
Okay, well, I was talking to the camera. No.
And so the Hulu and
the one he just punched. The one he just punched.
That one right there. Yeah, you know what I mean? So it's, give. We need resources. And, the funding makes this work possible, so that's a big deal.
And then your merchandise.
Yeah. So we also do social enterprise. So one of the parts of our restorative care program is we offer jobs to overcomers who've come out of the life.
Amen.
And so if they're in our program, they can choose to work in our social enterprise. So they're making candles and soaps and leather goods and cologne. I'm wearing the cologne right now. All sorts of stuff. And
on point.
Yeah, you can find that Elijah Rising Goods, or let me give you the real URL, shop.elijahrising.org. So we call our store the Elijah Rising Goods.
And they could get through there through the first website. That
Absolutely. Yeah. There's a banner up there, shop.
And we'll make sure that
we'll drop a link.
We'll
drop a link.
And if you're in Houston, they could visit on 11th Street.
Nope.
Not that place.
It moved.
You see this false information people
I know.
be spreading?
Come on, Whitehead. I thought you knew.
Get informed.
Hey, the
What is
pandemic, bro.
that?
All that conspiratorial thinking. Get out of here. No, we're
working with Weinstein.
We're
who
still
is it? Epstein.
No.
Weinstein's a whole other issue.
Oh.
Next episode. What were we talking about? Oh,
About
social
on 11th
Street. Yeah, we used to be on 11th Street. We're still in
next
the
to the
Heights.
coffee shop, right?
Yeah, not anymore.
Not
no.
anymore. Okay.
Yeah.
Stop with that false information, man.
So we're still in the Heights neighborhood of Houston. We're on Sabine.
Okay.
So you can, again, just go to the website. That's probably easier.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Or hit us up on Instagram. We're real active on Instagram. You can find find us. And the store actually has its own Instagram. And so you can shop the products online. You can come visit. You can come shop in person. Come see us. Come meet with us during regular business hours, though. We're not there on Saturdays. It is not like that. I play with my kids on Saturdays. You know what I'm saying? Social enterprise is a big deal. We're providing, fair wages to these women, giving them job training skills, giving them a resume.
Yeah.
We help them they have to interview for their job, right? They have to write a resume for their job. And they get partnered up with mentors. They're making candles and soaps and stuff in the store, while they're in the program. But maybe they want to be a pizzeria owner, right? Yeah. So what our team will do is we'll go find a daggum pizzeria owner and partner with them and say, hey, look, can you just talk to them about this? And
if you're a pizzeria owner out there watching,
I would like to eat pizza.
And that's how business owners can help.
Yeah, exactly.
Dope.
So I mean, that's a great point. If you've got a business, if you're a pastor of a church, if you run a foundation, if you are another ministry of some kind, right? There are plenty of partnership opportunities where we can collaborate. We can do this together. Because it's gonna take all of us.
Nice. Yeah. Wow. Also, man, big shout out to there's a coffee shop. What's it called?
A Second Cup. A Second Cup. Yeah, and so they are on 11th Street.
Okay.
And so what they do is they raise awareness about the issue of trafficking, and then they give a portion of the proceeds of all their sales to the anti-trafficking landscape. Yeah. So not just Elijah Rising, but other anti-trafficking organizations throughout the city.
Awesome. That's a dope place, man. When you go inside, it has a lot of information on the walls.
Yeah, and our products, our social enterprise products are there. They sell all of our candles and stuff. Awesome. Yeah. So they're great partners.
Well, Adam, I just want to say we appreciate you for everything you're doing.
Yeah.
Not just for the city, but for bringing awareness to this and exposing the enemy where he lies, because if it was up to him, he'd stay in the dark.
Yeah, exactly. Gotta shine a light on it, and that's where Let's Chop It Up. I mean, y'all are doing it. This is how we do this. You shine a light on it. You have a conversation about it.
Yes.
Exactly. And so I am honored to be here. I'm honored to be invited. I don't feel cool enough to be on this podcast. I have no flow, no bars.
Cool, bro. You're beyond cool.
But I am from the H. Born and raised, 713 area code on my phone, so I do feel at home.
Lately, everybody's trying to make lists about their top interviews. I ain't gonna lie, I was digging this one.
I
appreciate that.
I was very blessed. I think. It's great. It's great having you with us.
Yeah, I appreciate y'all.
So we're gonna invite you, man, to come to a hip hop show. When we do a Christian hip hop show,
you're gonna have to have a verse ready.
Okay. I will. I'll get our comms team on that. We'll craft something. So.
But roses to you and your team and everything y'all doing, brother. Again, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you very much, y'all.
Guys, this has been the Let's Chop It Up podcast. Man, if you haven't hit the like button, what you doing? Comment, subscribe, hey, share it. I'm telling you, this one right here is something that people need to hear. You know what I'm saying?
Definitely.
So go check out his podcast. Go check out everything they're doing. It's amazing. You know what I'm saying? Continue to be plugged in and support. You know what I'm saying? Whether it just be through prayer or the Lord has led you to help in other ways. Be obedient, right? But with that being said, this has been the Let's Chop It Up podcast. Deuce.
Let's chop it up.